Okay, we're doing 4.5, the graph of rational functions, part 1. And we're going to be finding a bunch of things: domain, x-intercept, y-intercept, vertical asymptotes, horizontal asymptotes, and oblique asymptotes. All right, for the following functions. All right, number 1, we have f of x equals x over x squared plus x minus 2. All right, the first thing you want to do is you want to factor this thing. All right, and that's in order to find your domain, but you don't want to reduce it when finding the domain, just factor. All right, so for this first one here, we've got x on top, and underneath we get x plus 2 and x minus 1. Okay, so going to the domain, we just want to make sure that the denominator does not equal 0. Alright, so just make sure that x plus 2 doesn't equal 0, and x minus 1 does not equal 0. Okay, so for our domain we have a couple restrictions, -2 and 1. Okay, and so we've got our domain here. Alright, now for the x-intercepts. X-intercepts, this is where you do want to reduce. Alright, and then we're going to go from there throughout after reducing. So taking a look at this, this function, it's already reduced. Alright, so we're good to go. So for the x-intercepts, you want to let y equal 0, right? That's back for algebra 1. But in this case, since we have this rational function, you could also just take a look at the numerator, because as long as the numerator equals 0, that'll allow y to be 0. The whole function y will be 0. Alright, so the numerator is simply x, so x equaling 0 is your x-intercept, and we get 0, 0. Now for the y-intercept, take it back to algebra 1, you'd be letting x equal 0. And if you do that, then f of 0, that's one way of writing it, equals 0 over. Now since this is already reduced, you could use the original, right? You could use 0 squared plus 0 minus 2 if you like. And that's going to equal 0, all right, ultimately. Okay, and our y-intercept is 0, 0, and we should have known that from our x-intercept. All right, so whenever our x-intercept is 0, 0, our y-intercept is also going to be 0, 0. All right, now on to the asymptotes. Right, so let's investigate our vertical asymptotes. That's where we want our denominator to equal 0. All right, so we've already discovered those in our domain. Right, where the denominators equal 0. Where x equals -2 and where x equals 1. Alright, so those actually become our asymptotes. Okay, so they're not allowed to be those values for the domain, and those values end up being our asymptotes for this example. Alright, now for the horizontal asymptote or the oblique asymptote, we're going to take a look at the powers, alright, the degrees on the numerator and the degree on the denominator. And we notice that the degree of the numerator is less than the degree of the denominator, so that falls under a horizontal asymptote. Right, so degree of the numerator is less than degree of denominator. And so we have a horizontal asymptote, and it's very simple. It's just simply y equals 0. It's automatic, no work involved. And if there's a horizontal asymptote, that means there's no oblique asymptote. Alright, so those are your 6 values, and we're going to do a couple more examples, alright? Alright, let's move on to number 2.